Hi, this is the man from Modesto. I want to share with you 3 dreams I've had recently. The first one is about 2 floors of a building. The second is about salt, and the last dream is about 2 army sieges. In this first dream, I was in a room, in a building, a concrete kind of room, and a voice said to me, like, you need to go down to the ground and see if the enemy is advancing. So I got on the lift and I pushed the button for the ground floor. I went down and I looked out, and sure enough, I saw that between my building there were other buildings, and there were these narrow pathways in between. I don't know why, but covered in dirt, or only dirt, and but there was this huge door blocking the end of this kind of an alley where I was standing, and on the other side of this glass barrier, which after praying I understood is the hand of God, the will of God, that there was the enemy there, and they were pounding against the barrier trying to break through, but they were there. So like I saw, like the enemy is at the gate, and but this wasn't a normal looking army. I didn't really see any men per se. Everybody was dressed in these heavy armors, kind of like almost men in battle suits or something, I don't know. But there were also other smaller things that clearly could not be the suit for a man, but little robots, and they had many little nozzles on the face, and these nozzles looked like they would spray some kind of a liquid, I don't know what, flammable fluid, biochemical weapons, I don't know. But these were unusual weapons, things that I'm unfamiliar with as having been on any battlefields of the past. So they're very peculiar. Now, then I went and I hid around a corner, and I saw that I had only a handgun, and I thought, well, this is all I have, but I better take up my station because there's no one here. And as I was thinking this, I noticed a few other men arrived, and they saw the enemy, and they got into a position to lay down some fire if they would break the gate. So, or if the gate would be lifted and they would come through. So, and then I heard the Holy Spirit speak to me, and they said, no, there are some weapons across the way. So I ran across in this other room, and I found a weapon. I picked it up. It was very heavy, and it was very peculiar. And then some enemy managed to come through another door into that room. Some other men come and to fight with me, and we cleared that room. Now what these guns did is they had a piece of ammunition that fired something like light, but they were especially designed to defeat these huge armored suits. They were large and clunky, but you couldn't defeat them with a regular gun. You needed this special weapon. So I had one of those, and we were able to take out these enemies. So I don't know, I really don't understand what all that is. It might make more sense later. Okay, so now we win that battle, that small fight, and the Holy Spirit tells me, well, now you need to go back up. So I get in the lift, and I go to push the button for the 50th floor, and now suddenly there's an angel standing with me in the lift, and he looks at me and he says, no, you need to go to the 34th floor. So I go to push 34, and as I push it, he takes my hand and he holds it against the buttons like this, and he says, no, you have to push it and hold it. So after praying about it, I understood that the 50th floor represents Jeremiah 50, and in that, I think it's verse 8, it says, you need to leave the land of Israel, which is corrupt and is going to be destroyed by a foreign army, and you need to go to the land of the Chaldeans, where you will live. So I'm currently living in Ukraine. I left the United States almost 3 years ago, and that's what the Holy Spirit showed me. That's where I am now. I'm in this Jeremiah 50. We got some construction going on. So the 34th floor represents Ezekiel 34, and in Ezekiel 34 it talks about the shepherds are corrupt, and he's warning the shepherds, but also at the end he talks about how people will be blessed. And that moves me into the second dream. The second dream was very interesting, an unusual format, not one I've seen too often. A series of small vignettes, and they alternated. In one set, I would see a scene of my own life, how things were going very nicely for me, how I was receiving a blessing, how I was overcoming, and things were going very well for me. In the other scene, I saw things going on that were corruption in America. All kinds of corrupt things, lasciviousness, anger, violence, just every kind of bad thing. And at the end of the dream, and this is something that has happened many times, I hear the voice of an angel speak. It's very powerful, it's authoritative, and when I hear it, it shocks me so powerfully, it wakes me straight up. And this voice said, the church has lost its salt. And this is a no-brainer. Just think about it. How could 9/11 happen to a nation where that glass shield, where the hand of God is protecting them? It can't. That's a warning. Hey, how could that happen? How could America be losing so badly in wars? Well, I'm not going to get into that. How could America be so corrupt if the church has its salt? How can food get rotten if it's properly salted? So the problem is with the church. And so that's the second dream. But God also told me after I prayed about it that what I was seeing good things for myself, that's not just for me. That's a promise also to people who put their trust in God, people who are walking closely with God, living in obedience. Not perfect obedience, people. God showed me that for me, and I can tell you, my life is not perfect. I say the wrong thing, I do the wrong thing. You know, like Paul said, I do stuff I don't want to do, stuff I'm praying not to do, and I do it. And I don't do stuff that I know I ought to do. Like the Holy Spirit, I should have made this video several days ago. The Holy Spirit's been getting on me about it. So, third dream. Since I've moved here, God showed me when I was coming on the plane, God showed me there would be a war. When I moved here, people said, where are you moving to? And the Holy Spirit said, don't tell them, you just have to be obedient. Because I knew even then that there was going to be a war eventually in Ukraine. And there is. The Russians have invaded, they've seized Crimea, they tried to take Mariupol, they're trying to seize the Donbass region. More than 6,400 people have died on the Ukrainian side alone. So there's a war here. And what God showed me was every time Putin promised peace, every time, consistently, without fail, that night God would show me a dream. No, this is what Putin is really doing. And God has shown me that now Putin is trying to recruit other world leaders to make an allegiance with him because he's furious. He wants Ukraine. And but more than that, he's furious that he did not get his way because he's a kind of an egoist. He's a narcissist, but in a really violent, angry way that I think that the typical psychologist wouldn't comprehend. Like, this is what I saw in the spirit, and he's really, really furious, violently angry, like the kind of guy who beats his own wife to death because he's so angry. Like this kind of horribleness, but worse, he's willing to kill probably the entire population of another nation. That's how wicked this guy is. So, in one of these dreams, I saw after this last peace treaty, the one that's still mostly, in place, I saw a map, and I saw the nation of Ukraine, or I saw Kiev, and on the east side, I saw this army formed up. Didn't say it was the Russian army. That's kind of an assumption that I think is fair. Could be a combined army, I don't know. But I saw this army formed up, and God showed me, like, this is the truth. Now, the next scene in that dream was I saw Los Angeles, and to the south of Los Angeles, there was another army formed up around the city of Los Angeles. And for some reason, rather than like a nice crescent, at the end it had a little hook like that. It hooked up like that, and then it had a little curve. So that probably will be something that will prove that God does speak when you see that happen. But when you see the Russian army coming in and sieging Kiev on the east, understand that God also wants you to know that America is also going to be attacked, that America is also going to see foreign armies on her soil, because America is Mystery Babylon the Great. I received this by personal revelation. It's not a teaching I heard from a man. Since then, I've heard other ministers who have a close walk with God say that God also showed them by personal revelation that the Mystery Babylon the Great is the United States of America in the Bible. It's not like God never knew North America would be discovered, South America. He knew, but he called it Mystery Babylon the Great. This is the man from Modesto reminding you, as always, to put your trust in God, don't fear, and pray.